Welcome. Today, we're going to be looking at developing a WeChat strategy for your business in China. Let's get into it. I can't wait. First, we're going to be doing a little bit of an introduction for the EU SME Centre. I'm sure you know who they are already, but if you don't, then EU SME Centre is a project funded directly from the European Union, and their remit basically is to help European small and medium-sized enterprises get into China and set up, start making money. That's their remit, and they're implemented by 6 chambers of commerce here in China. And yeah, they're really great people. They're awesome. They've got lots of in-house expertise available for all the different kind of industries and things that you'd need. They've got lots of services. They have online and offline. They do lots of trainings and webinars. They have hot desking available in Beijing as well if you need that. And yeah, check them out. How do you get started? Well, you go to their website, sign up, get your account, and start taking a look because they've got lots of information on there that's free. So really nothing to lose. Okay, so let's get into our agenda for today because it's only a short little webinar here. This webinar is based on a training that we did in Beijing and Shanghai, which was a whole afternoon, and we covered a lot, and we really struggled to squeeze it all in, actually. And now they said, Matthew, can you do us a webinar? I said, fine, let's do a webinar, but it's really challenging actually to fit all this information in. So it's really much the bare bones that we're giving you right now. But I'm sure that by listening, you're going to get some good takeaways. I'm 100% sure of that. Because today we're going to give you just, the most important stuff. So first we're going to look at why WeChat, the big picture, give you some data and stats about what's going on. Then we're going to look at the entities available on WeChat. So as an SME, what kind of presences can we have on the WeChat platform? How do we set up, basically? Part 3, we're going to look at follower acquisition techniques. And what that means is, how do we get people to notice us? So if we've set up, we've got our accounts up and running, now we need to get some traffic. We need to get people to actually, find us. So how do we do that? And then thirdly, we're going to look at some interesting case studies, see some examples of what other people are doing. Along the way, we'll mention monetization and a few other couple of things briefly, but this is basically how we're going to break things down. So let's get into it. Why WeChat? Okay, the big picture. So WeChat often gets described as the Swiss Army knife app. It's an app that's unlike any other app that we have outside China. It can do everything in one place. You really don't need to leave WeChat. You just don't need to leave WeChat, pretty much. And a lot of Chinese don't. When we look at the number of internet users in China, and we compare that with the number of WeChat users, we can see that from the first half of 2016, WeChat really overtook the number of internet users in China, mobile internet users. And this trend is going to continue throughout 2017 for sure. WeChat's not so popular outside China. In fact, we can say it's basically used by ethnic Chinese people and those doing business with China, and no one else really. And that's not likely to change anytime soon. But what this does mean, when we look at this data, is that it's pretty clear that everyone who's using the internet who's Chinese has a WeChat account. That's not a controversial statement to say. When people are using WeChat, basically it's a messaging app, yeah? So users are spending their time every day in what we call the WeChat call loop, what I call the WeChat call loop. And this is basically they're spending their time flicking between chat with their friends in groups and individuals, and then what we call moments. And moments is a news feed. So this is where users like to spend their time in WeChat. This is what makes it so addictive. Pretty much everyone Chinese will check their moments every day religiously, and this is the opposite. Well, it's not the opposite, but it's flipping how Facebook does things on my head, because in Facebook the news feed is primary. Yeah, so newsfeed is where we spend where Facebook wants you to spend their time, because that's, Facebook loves throwing adverts at you. That's what they're good at, and that's how they make all their money. And they do that in the newsfeed. And messaging is secondary on Facebook. So on WeChat it's the other way around. This is some information that WeChat released a while back, and it just shows you how clearly things get, how addicted Chinese users can be to WeChat. So a typical schedule for an engaged user: the first thing they do when they wake up is check WeChat, and the last thing they do before they go to bed is check WeChat. And for an average user in China, they're checking WeChat about 20 to 30 times a day, something in that region. When we look at time spent on mobile in China, you see quite clearly WeChat is over a third now, 35%. And Tencent, the company that owns WeChat, which is the largest internet company in Asia, it's about the Tencent and Alibaba are the two giants of the Chinese tech scene. And Alibaba owns e-commerce, but Tencent is really owns gaming and social. And in terms of time spent on mobile in China, Tencent really kind of strangles the phone. They do really well, and 55% of all time on mobile is owned by Tencent, which is quite amazing statistic. When businesses use WeChat, they're basically using this kind of model, what we call an app within the app model. So SMEs in China will have a WeChat account, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But those WeChat accounts are usually far more important than their website, and they can actually build an app within their WeChat account, and so they're kind of building an app within an app. So an app within WeChat within the OS. It's a little bit convoluted, but that's how things work in China now. And on the right there, you can see a typical WeChat app. This is for a cleaning service, and this is what it actually looks like when we talk about these apps within apps. The number of WeChat official accounts, which are what businesses use to have a formal presence on the platform, has exploded over the past few years. And we can see that in 2017 it's projected to be 14 million. Like I said earlier, it's really kind of, for most SMEs, their WeChat account is going to be more important than their website. They might not even have a website. If you're a startup that is building a service, and then they'll probably develop for WeChat first rather than build an iOS or Android app. And what's really good for businesses is that in the past year, number of e-commerce purchases through WeChat has doubled. So the vast majority of WeChat users in China now have their bank cards linked to the application, and they're comfortable with making certainly peer-to-peer transactions, and increasingly B2C transactions as well on WeChat. And this is why, for business, there's now intense interest on WeChat as an online platform through which you can drive sales. And this wasn't the case 2 years ago. Okay, so let's dive into the entities available for WeChat marketing. We've got a very, very quick overview there of the platform. Basically, to summarize, WeChat's huge. In China, everyone has a WeChat account, and everyone in Tier 1 and everyone of a working age has got their bank card linked to WeChat, and they're comfortable making purchases on the platform. And an increasing number of people are making those purchases with businesses directly through their WeChat accounts. And so this is why WeChat is a rival now to the more established platforms for e-commerce. It's already a great platform for branding and for social interaction and other things that you might be thinking of doing. Um, but overall, it's not an exaggeration to say that WeChat is a platform you can't ignore in China. So if you're going to have any kind of decent presence in China, you have to have a WeChat strategy. Okay, so let's have a look at the entities available for us when we do marketing on WeChat. What kind of, how can we set up on the platform? What can we do? Well, when we look at the WeChat platform for business, usually 9 times out of 10, we're talking about official accounts. Official accounts are for businesses. There's a subscription account, there's a service account, and there's an enterprise account, and there's a new one which came out literally a couple of weeks ago as of this recording, which are the mini programs. Exciting stuff. And we'll talk about all 4 of those and go into the differences and the details about them. We can think of them as just different tools in our WeChat toolbox. Yeah, they all have different advantages and disadvantages, and some of them aren't suitable for marketing. Some of them are. There's 2 more that I'm going to talk about, which are groups and personal accounts. Now, groups and personal accounts, if you go online and you get up on Google and search WeChat marketing and do your research, which I'm sure you will be doing or have done, you won't read much about groups or personal accounts for WeChat marketing meant to be used for businesses. These types of interactions and presences are designed for users, for normal users, for people. But the fact is, in China, Chinese SMEs will use personal accounts and groups a lot, and it will actually be one of the main ways that they market on the platform. So let's get into these official accounts. Let's look at the official accounts first and see what they do. All these confusing names. What are we actually talking about here? Right. Well, first we'll talk about how do you register an official account. Yeah, regardless of which type we're using, we need to register them, and the registration process is the same for all of them. And we register and we verify. There's 2 steps. Yeah, and the registration part is free, and if you do it, it's and you pass it, it's instantaneous. The verification process takes a little bit longer. It takes a few working days, and it costs 300 RMB, which is really quite reasonable, really. And so it's something that it's cheaper than the website, really. In the West, we don't have to worry with hosting. We don't have to worry with getting a domain name. Or purchasing a domain name rather. It's all done through the platform. Now, what we're going to need? We're going to need an email account. That's fairly straightforward. We're going to need a Chinese ID card. That could be a little bit tricky. There's no way around that. You're going to need an ID card of someone Chinese to register the account under, and that should definitely be someone you trust. And one Chinese ID card can only register 5 different accounts. So, it is a little bit of a problem in the sort of marketing industry that people in the marketing departments they have their ID cards already maxed out. But 9 times out of 10 that's not an issue. We're going to need a Chinese mobile number. That will be the number of the person who we're using the ID card for. And we're going to need a business license, a Chinese business license, and the organization code for that business license. So that's the big one. That's the one that trips up a lot of foreign organizations. So let me just talk about that for a bit. Your business license. Why do we need that? Well, first I'm going to take a step back and talk about something that confuses a lot of people. Basically, with official accounts on WeChat, there's 2 separate systems. There's international official accounts, which we call WeChat official accounts, and then there's China official accounts, which are referred to as Weixin official accounts. Weixin's the name for WeChat in Chinese. Completely separate. and they're hosted on different servers. Now, the Weixin ones, the ones in China, those ones that's the one you want. Yeah, no, for sure that's the one you want, because that's the one that is visible to everybody. Yeah, it's visible to everyone who has a WeChat account. Yeah, the international ones are not visible to Chinese people. Yeah, so if you there's this example here is you got two QR codes there. You can scan them both if you want with your WeChat, if you have a WeChat account. I'm sure you do. If you don't, then what are you doing? You could first step, you got to get a WeChat account. If you're going to take this stuff seriously. Otherwise, what I'm telling you now, a lot of it just really will not make sense. So whip out your WeChat and scan the QR codes. And if you're an international user, you'll be able to scan both of them. And congratulations, you'll be able to follow Roma Football Club's WeChat account and their Weixin account and learn all about Roma Football Club. But if you're a China user, if you registered your WeChat account under a +86 number for the first time, then when you scan that QR code on the left, the slightly blurry one, guess what? You'll get an error message, the error message on the right, saying it's an invalid QR code. And so the reasons for this is political. It's not technical reasons. But what it means, why am I talking about this now? It's just I get a lot of questions about this because people come to me and say, Matthew, I've registered an official WeChat account, and when people scan it, they can't see it. If you're going, you can go onto my website and check the resources page. There's two if you want to make sure. Because there's two different official account platform logins. One of them's, I think, admin.WeChat. That's the international one. Don't use that one. The other one is mp.weixin something. I forget off the top of my head. But anyway, that's the China one, and that's the one you want to be using. The China one is all in Chinese. There's no English version of the China one. So if you're on a login page that's all Chinese, that's the one you want. So how do we get around this? Going back to our verification, our requirement process. Well, if you're an international organization and you don't have a legal entity in China, in mainland China, not Hong Kong, mainland China, then you basically need to use someone else's business license. That's what it boils down to. If you're an SME, and that's quite common. So don't worry about that. Find a partner, someone you trust, someone who's good, and then set it up and run with that. Because it's there's no way around it. So it's something that most people would do, and actually quite large organizations do that as well. Foreign organizations. It's not ideal by any means, but if we want to have a presence on WeChat, that's what we need to do. So let's go into the first type of official account, which is a subscription account. And a subscription account lives in the subscription accounts folder, which you can see highlighted by the arrow there. And those guys, when you go into that folder, they look like on the right there, they line up, and it's very much like an RSS feed if you've used those before. We have all our subscription accounts together in one place, very neatly organized. And when they send us a message, that message pops up to the top of the subscription account folder. The advantages of a subscription account is you can push a message, content, daily, once a day, every 24 hours, and it gets reset at midnight. And because they're nicely organized in this little subscription account folder, they're much less likely to be unfollowed. The disadvantages is that they're hidden, and there's no advanced API. So there's no sort of, if you want to build a WeChat app, something with a bit more functionality, maybe some CRM stuff going on, maybe you've got e-commerce stuff going on there. There's a lot you can do with WeChat accounts, a lot actually. And most of that stuff is not available on a subscription account, because subscription account is really built for Well, originally they were built for bloggers, actually. That's their original purpose. Back in when they were launched in 2012, 2013. Um, but they work really well for people who've got lots of content. So media, for example, they're very suitable for using WeChat subscription accounts. If you don't have a lot of content, if you're not able to put out great content every day, then they're probably not such a great choice. Other disadvantages are that you can't message your followers directly, and you get a limited amount of data on those followers. Now, the service account appears in a timeline, in the WeChat timeline, like a friend. Very similar experience. When you get a message from a service account, it's exactly the same as getting a message from your friend. It will pop up there, and it's like email, actually. This is why a service account is very powerful. In China, email, it's not such a big thing. China kind of skipped email in general, and your WeChat chat timeline is pretty similar to an inbox on your email. So if you're able to push a message that pops up to the top of their WeChat timeline, then this is the same as sending them an email, which is in their mailbox and which they check every day. They can't ignore it. It's very visible. It's invasive, basically. It's too visible. Because what this means is if you send a message to them on this service account and that content is not interesting, if it's very salesy, very promotional, and not interesting, then you've got a high chance of being unfollowed. Because unfollowing an official account on WeChat is quite easy to do. Yeah. So the advantage is high visibility. And we've got lots of advanced stuff we can do if you want to get all geeky and if you want to basically build your own app within WeChat and you want to do some cool things with CRM or get some developers in and do some nice stuff there. The disadvantages are that as I mentioned, you can get unfollowed. You can only push 4 times a month in terms of notifications, so that's once a week. It's actually 4 times in 1 month. You can push 4 times in 1 day if you want, but then you have to wait a month until the next time. And you, just like the subscription accounts, you can't message followers unless they message you, and you get limited data on those followers. The next type I want to talk about is enterprise accounts. Mention those briefly. Now, an enterprise account, this is the China Channel enterprise account you can see here that we used for testing earlier on. And these are used for internal company communication. So we're not going to talk about enterprise accounts that much because they're not really used for marketing. But I just wanted to let you know that they exist and they are on a type of official account. And so that's what they're used for. The other one, the final one, is the mini program. And the mini programs live on the Discovery tab, you can see here. And when you go in there and they get listed down here, as you can see on the right, these are all mini programs that I'm following. Excuse me. When we open a mini program, this is the Mobike mini program on the left. And on the right, we've got the Mobike app, the Android app for Mobike. And you can see how similar they are. Mini programs can act basically as light applications that work directly within WeChat. Now, we're not going to really cover mini programs. It's way out of the scope of this webinar. And really, mini programs, to summarize, unless you've got a development team in China and you're willing to put some resource and budget behind getting an IT team to build you something for a mini program, then it's not going to be something you use. A personal account. This is my personal account, and if I'm guessing you also have a personal account if you have a WeChat account, and this can be used for business for sure. This can be used for marketing, and you could set up. You could use your own personal account. for business. It's certainly for networking and making business contacts. Of course, you're going to be using your personal WeChat account. In China, sharing WeChat accounts is as common, if not more common, than sharing business cards. Especially when you get down to tier 2, tier 3 cities, when you step outside of Beijing and Shanghai into the rest of China. So advantages of using personal accounts. Well, there's big advantages actually. You can add people to groups. So when you've got your contacts, if you've added people to your personal account, you can put those people into groups, and we'll talk about groups a little bit later on. You can't do that directly for an official account. You can make posts which they will see in their moments in the news feed, and the news feed is incredibly valuable. This is prime real estate for advertising online in China. So you can basically promote your product and services to them on a regular basis in moments. You can contact them anytime you want. So you can send them a message as a friend because they've added you as a friend. The disadvantages are that on a personal account, you're limited to 5,000 contacts. Once you hit 5,000, you can't add any more people, so you have to set up another account. There's also an algorithm for who sees your moments posts beyond a certain limit. So if you have 5,000 contacts, basically 5,000 people are not going to see your promotional post on the newsfeed, and probably only about 1,000 people are going to see it, something like that. And if you're using a personal account for business, there's a very small chance that you could be reported, because you're basically hacking the system. You're not going to use a personal account for business. Although this chance is really very small. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much, but I thought I'd mention it. Groups are very popular in WeChat, and they're a way for people to communicate about certain topics. I have a group that I use for my business called Chat. It's got nearly 500 people in it now, and it's a very powerful tool for me to get information and share information with people. And when I do have an event, then I can post about that event in the group, and it really helps. On my official account, I wrote about how to manage groups and rules of running groups, and you can check out those articles on my website as well if you want to know about that. But group marketing is very powerful if done in the right way. If we're using groups for marketing on WeChat, I think you've got to have a clear value proposition for the group. We need to enforce the group rules clearly and consistently, so you've got to let people know what they can and can't do in the group. There's a lot of spamming that goes on from groups. You're going to get other people wanting to promote their stuff in WeChat groups, and so you need to make sure that there's rules to stop people doing that, and you're going to have to kick people out eventually. That's for sure. When someone joins the group, that's the most important time. That's the most time that they're going to pay attention to the group, so get them engaged from the beginning. A lot of groups have regular topics and themes and set times of engagement. And we can use groups to build community and encourage discussion amongst members, and that's how the group will be kept alive and be active, and people will pay attention to it. So before we get into follower acquisition techniques, I just want to summarize quickly what we covered, because that was a lot, right? We've got these different tools. We've got these official accounts. We've got personal. We've got groups. We've got other channels. Okay, they're all just different tools in our toolbox, and it's not a matter of saying, okay, I want to pick one and just do that. No, you're going to be using several. Yeah, you're going to be using several. Now, for SMEs looking at China from Europe, you definitely want to have a service account. Yeah, service account is going to be your base. 99% of the time, that's your base. Yeah, so get yourself a service account. If you don't have a presence in China, and like legal presence in China, then use someone else's business license, get an agency. We do that as well for clients. It's very, very common. Yeah, so that's your base. If you've got a lot of content, Yeah, if you've got a lot of content, in another language that you want to translate over to Chinese, or if you want to have a content team in China, you've got a lot of video content or whatever it is, and you think, okay, we've got enough to push out stuff on a daily basis. Great, go for a subscription account as well. Put that into the mix, because that can push daily. Yeah. Enterprise account, no, we don't want that. Mini program, and mini program be a good option if you're an IT company and you're looking to, or an IT startup, and you're looking at doing something interesting, technical. Great, go for that. Otherwise, don't worry about that one. And then the personal accounts and groups, yeah, these are the sort of guerrilla tactics, or one of the guerrilla tactics that we can use that can be very effective, especially when you're starting off, to build that following and get people who are really engaged in your brand and in your product, and be able to communicate with them directly. So, well, especially when you're starting out, definitely be using personal accounts as well, and groups. Yeah. Right. So you've registered your accounts. How do we get traffic to our official accounts? And how do you get traffic on how do you get 5,000 people on your personal account? How do we get people to take notice of us? Well, it basically boils down like this. Yeah. Follower acquisition. So we can do paid advertisements, we can do viral campaigns, we can use what we call key opinion leaders, which are like influencers. That's what they're usually called outside China. But in China, we have this phrase KOL, which is the way that everybody uses to refer to these people. Content strategy, so we can use content. In fact, content strategy is something we can't ignore. It's pretty much something we have to do on WeChat. And then we have offline strategies, and there's some other techniques that we'll look at as well. But it basically breaks down into these 5 different categories. Right, so let's have a look at paid advertisement. So how do we pay Tencent to get people to actually follow our account and take notice of us? Well, we can pay Tencent to, we can pay WeChat to get advertisements in the Moments newsfeed. And this is an example. This is a video advertisement. One of the very first video advertisements on WeChat that was done in, when was it? 2015 now, when they opened that up. And yeah, payment for if you want to look at Moments advertising, you can scan this QR code, and there's tons and tons and tons of case studies for Moments advertising from all different kinds of company. But Moments advertising, which is similar to Facebook ads, right? You're basically putting advertisements into the newsfeed. Yeah, so similar concept. Moments advertising has 3 different types right now, and there's picture adverts, there's video adverts, and there's local adverts. And for an SME, local adverts are the only one that we can suitable for us. Why? Because picture adverts and video adverts are really expensive. The minimum start price on those is 50,000 RMB, and the budgets on them can go up way higher than that. And usually done for what we call brand advertising. So we're just brand building. Coca-Cola is going to go on there, and they're going to do some really cool. They're going to invest in some really cool video, some creative advertising agencies going to build them some amazing video content, and they're going to spend a lot of money to do brand advertisement on Moments. But SME, usually we don't have the budget to do that, and we want to get some sort of cheap, very trackable advertising, so we can really see the return on investment. Is it working for us? And be able to target the people that we really want to get in contact with. Local adverts can do that. So a local advert is basically only visible to people within a certain physical area. They're basically a fixed price PPM, so you pay per 1,000 impressions. That's what that means. And the lowest price is only 300 RMB. That's really low. You can attain up to a 10-day campaign, and basically you pick different business districts across China. There's over 4,000 of them in 81 different cities that are available. And let's say you wanted to target someone in tier 1, those are the most expensive ones. You're going to pay 150 RMB to reach 1,000 people. Get 1,000 people to see your advert. We've got no guarantee that any of them will click, no guarantee that any of them will like our advert, because we have to provide the content. But we can guarantee that if we spend 150 RMB, that 1,000 people are going to see that. And they're going to see that in their Moments newsfeed, which is something that they're definitely paying attention to every day. And a Moments local ad looks like this. So this is an example that I took from my personal Moments newsfeed. And what we see here on the left is an advert for a health center which has a swimming pool. They're basically advertising the swimming pool. And they got some text there, and they got a picture of the swimming pool. And there's a link. And if I go click through to the link, it will give me more information about the address. And the telephone number. It'll give me some extra pictures and the hours that they open. If I click through to the address, I can get it on the Tencent Maps, and if I click through on that green button there in the bottom right corner, it will just tell me exactly how to get there. Okay, the next way for us to gain traffic on WeChat is through campaigns, in particular viral campaigns. This is a typical viral campaign. This one was very, very successful on WeChat last year. It got 30 million page views. It was so successful that Tencent shut down the official account. It's a very simple idea. You inputted your date of birth into a web page, and it created this little image for you with lots of information about your personality, saying little things about you, and people shared it on their Moments with a little QR code for other people to also try it and get sort of predictions about their personality based on their star sign. Quite a silly idea, but did very, very well. Now, for an SME, usually coming up with these ideas to do viral campaigns is really difficult. You've got to be very much in touch with Chinese society, and even for Chinese people to do this stuff is super difficult. So I'm not going to talk about viral campaigns that much. They can work to get followers, but I don't recommend them as a systematic method in which to gain followers, because they're very, very hard to do. And there's also a thing on WeChat that from last year, in what we call incentivized sharing, asking your followers to share content directly is against their regulations now. So what this means is they're kind of shutting down to some degree organic reach on the platform, and in the future there will be opening up more options for SMEs to use things like Moments advertising, and then to do that, obviously you need to pay Tencent. So doing a little bit more like what Facebook does. Some people often ask me about risks of getting your account banned on WeChat, because accounts do get banned, and there's always talk about that, because a lot of accounts are doing things which are against the regulations. I don't have time to really go into very deep here today into the regulations on WeChat, but we touched upon one point there: incentivized sharing. And if you break the rules on WeChat and get reported, then there is this warning system for official accounts, and your account can be banned for some days, or permanently banned. It's not something that foreign organizations need to worry about too much, because it's unlikely you'll be doing anything that's too risky on the platform. So yeah, for the campaigns part, I'm not going to cover it too much, because it's not so suitable for SMEs. Let's look at the next one, which is KOLs, influencers. And yeah, these can be suitable for SMEs for sure. Um, KOL is a key opinion leader, and basically these are people with a large following that Chinese netizens trust. Um, in China, there's a problem with media. Chinese people are quite suspicious of official news channels. They know that the news in China is often not 100% accurate, and they accept this. There's kind of a problem with trust with media, and there's a gap that needs to be fulfilled where people are looking for legitimate news sources, and this gap in information is filled by key opinion leaders. And there's different types of key opinion leaders. There's celebrities and stars, and there's respected professionals, grassroots celebrities, what we call Wanghongs, or basically and bloggers in China. And there's also verified organizations, media basically, and other kind of organizations that people trust. Um, and basically, Chinese tend to trust these, look to these sources of information a lot. Obviously, if a star or celebrity talks about your business, your brand in China, that's going to drive a lot of traffic to your WeChat account or to your website. But most of the time, we're not talking about Fan Bingbing and massive stars like that because they're way too expensive. If you're respected professionals, could be something that's more realistic. If you were in the, for example, in the medical profession, doing vitamins or supplements, for example, then if you had a doctor who was a respected professional who blogged on WeChat about this area, and they talked about your nutritional supplements, then that would drive a lot of high quality traffic to your WeChat account. We're talking about that kind of stuff here. If you want to find KOLs, you can find them on Weibo. Weibo is the version of Twitter that works in China, and usually they have contact information listed there on the left hand side, which is so Weibo is a great way to find KOLs. Another great way is to ask your customers, understand their habits, understand who they follow and who they read on WeChat. If you're already working with KOLs, then asking them about other KOLs is also a great way to find more ones. And basically do your homework and research on the industry and find out what are the big accounts on WeChat. A classic example of a KOL is Papi Zhang. Papi Zhang is very, very famous in China now, and this is her WeChat account, and she monetizes that account with advertisements now. On the right there, you can see a video advertisement. You can see brands such as L'Oreal there, and they're paying to be on her WeChat account. So this is how we work for KOLs in China. KOLs are not media buy. Don't make them put out a press release. Don't just send them a press release. You need to work with them a little bit more closely and a little bit cleverly, a little bit smarter than you would with just general paid advertisement. You can track effectiveness to sales rather than engagement. I think that's a better way to work with them, and find out ways to work with them that involve making great quality content. I think is a really good piece of advice. Okay, so let's look at our content strategy as a way of getting followers on WeChat. Now, content on WeChat is something we basically can't ignore. If we're using a service or a subscription account, you have to make content. This is the way things work on WeChat. It's a very content-driven system. And when we make content, we make a WeChat article. It basically boils down to three parts, which we call the title, the content, and the call to action. So the title is the hook. And we can see here in the picture, this is an example of a WeChat article. And the title needs to be very engaging, and the picture should be very engaging as well, because we only have a few characters to work with, and we have a very small picture that's about 50 pixels by 50 pixels. And if that information is not attractive, then nobody's going to open the article. And once people have opened the article, then we need to make sure our content is good. We need to make sure it gives a lot of value, that it's entertaining or interesting, maybe that it's useful or shareable. And this could be video content. Video content's increasingly popular on WeChat, but usually it's picture and text content. And then once we've impressed them with our amazing content, then we need to have some kind of call to action. We need to get them to buy something, or follow the account, or share, or scan the QR code, something like that. And you can see in the picture some examples of that, where the read more link is leading to an e-commerce store. But usually the call to action is a QR code to follow the account. And then there's ways to use offline to drive followers to our WeChat account. This is a good example from Cheers Wines, and they have stores all across China. So if you have an offline store, if you have print materials that you're using, make sure QR codes are everywhere. The QR code is extremely important in China, and if you have your QR code for your official account in very visible places, then that's great. Make sure it has a value proposition. Make sure that people know why they're scanning that QR code. Here we have like some examples: play the game, or get some special discounts. Usually it's discounts, but it could be get in touch with our customer service, for example. But make sure people know why to scan the QR code. If you're using WeChat payments offline at your stores, then there's the WeChat sales closed loop, which is WeChat's way of letting us know that if we use WeChat payments, then we can drive followers to the WeChat account directly through the payment transaction. There'll be an option for them to follow the account, and this is a great way to drive followers to a WeChat account. Yeah, quite effective. We can use coupons on our WeChat account, and this is a great way to. Chinese people love coupons, and coupons are a great way to provide value on your account and drive engagement and get followers. Okay, let's look at some case studies. Let's look at some examples of how people are using WeChat. So this is a great example of a cross-border WeChat account, and these guys, this is American organization, I believe, and they have their account set up, and they're monetizing through e-commerce. They have their store linked up to their WeChat account, and they are selling all their different types of supplements and things like that they sell on their store. And you can see those accessed through the menu items. Actually, the first menu button at the bottom there is Go Wall, which is shopping. So that will take you to their store where you can buy. Another interesting example is Nike, what Nike does on WeChat. I think it's interesting because they're not really about selling their product directly on WeChat. They're more about building communities and branding. And why they're interesting is because they don't just have one WeChat account, they have lots and lots of different WeChat accounts. And I think that's because they've realized that the different sports that they cover have different communities around those sports that are very, very different. And people who are into basketball, for example, don't really want to receive information about soccer. And people who are into running don't want to receive information about tennis. So they've built different communities around different sports and different parts of their brand. And it's just an example of how on WeChat Often it's a little bit more complicated than just opening one account. You really need to think about how you're going to build community and how you're going to communicate with people and what your followers really want. Open language is a good example that I think people can relate to on this webinar, because they teach English on WeChat. So this language learning, they do very, very well. This language learning market is very large in China, and a lot of people are involved in it. And they run a subscription model of selling content through their subscription account. They post content daily. They have lots of content. They lessons about English, and they push that out on a daily basis. And you can buy a subscription to all of their extra activities, and they do a lot of podcasts, a lot of audio content, and you can have access to all of their library for a year for one payment. And yeah, this is how they monetize on their account. Yoli is another example of an account that's for teaching English, but they do it in a very, very different way. So Yoli is basically, you can think of it as Uber for learning English through WeChat. So they will on the fly match you with an English teacher, and behind this, there's some quite interesting technology that they've developed to make this happen. But they basically act as a platform that matches students and teachers through WeChat. And these guys are up in Beijing. I know they license their platform to other people as well. And it's just an example of the same industry with open language and Yoli have been doing both, making money in very, very different ways. Logi Suwei is an extremely famous WeChat account, and they do their things a little bit differently with voice message. So they push content on a daily basis, but they do it through voice, and this is quite interesting and an original way to do it. They send a 60-second voice message every day, and they've built up an extremely large following, and they monetize through selling books, mooncakes, and lots of other things through their account. So Networking Matters is a very interesting account, I think, for SMEs, because it's a good example of how you can do nice branding and reach your target audience quite well on WeChat with a very simple and replicable strategy by providing them value. All they do is post on basically a weekly basis all the events, the networking events that will be around in Beijing and Shanghai. And so if you're into networking, then this is a great account to follow. And so they're able to reach the people they want to reach by providing them with this value of this events listings, and it's consistent, and they're able to do it, on a regular basis with quite little effort, relatively speaking. But it's good for them to be able to reach those people, and then in their articles they can obviously put extra information about what they're doing. Wings Art is an excellent example of an individual artist who is using WeChat. She basically will post on a regular basis articles which feature for her. She does a lot of stuff with GIFs, GIF art, and her articles are just her artwork, just these GIF artworks. But she's able to consistently gain leads for work through this account. So I think this is a great example of how an individual, just an artist, can put out content on a regular basis and have a strategy for a WeChat account that, though she's not directly making money through the account, but indirectly she's gaining a lot of business by putting her name out there and gaining a following. And this is the China Channel account, and we use we do have a similar strategy for our account. What we do is just put out free WeChat information. So if you want to learn more about WeChat, then you can follow our account. We have articles on there on a regular basis that are about WeChat, but we don't monetize directly through the account. We do a lot of offline events, and those events we charge for. I suppose that's how we monetize through the account. But yeah, just through branding of the account, a lot of people know us, and it's been very successful for us. Okay, so that's it for today for the webinar. We don't have much time, so I really had to whiz through a lot of stuff and really skip over what I feel are quite important points to get everything to fit in within an hour. If you are wanting to know more about WeChat, then you can go on to the Your SME Center's website. There's some information on there. You can check out chinachannel.co. Google us, and I'm sure we'll come up. And yeah, I hope you got some value from listening to this webinar. Okay, take care, guys. Have a good one. See you on WeChat.